The Katie Kelly Show.
I almost fought John C. Reilly on the streets of Boston. I almost punched John C. Reilly. Moreover, John C. Reilly almost punched me. I used to live in this tiny little subsection of Boston called Beacon Hill, off the beaten path. You wouldn't really walk there unless you lived there. It's so small that the streets and the sidewalks are cobblestone. I shit you not. Super quiet, super secluded, not a lot of people at all. Okay. 2 days before this story happened, I had rented the movie Magnolia. It had been years since it had come out. I don't know if that's important to the story, but nonetheless, I was like, oh, I never saw Magnolia. I should rent that. And then I had to physically walk to a location to rent it. So that's how old this story is. I watched Magnolia and I'm just so moved by John C. Reilly's performance, blown away. And he's this like shy, sweet cop who's like just like kind and gentle and like unassuming. I guess I thought that in real life he was like that character because I was like, this guy is such a good actor. I hope he keeps acting. I hope like people around him are encouraging him. Like he should definitely keep acting. Those are the thoughts that I had. Okay. 2 days later, 2 days after thinking, I really hope John C. Reilly is getting the proper encouragement to continue acting from people around him. I'm walking down my street and I look up and there's John C. Reilly. And we're the only two people on the street. Okay. Like I said, very secluded, quiet area. So it's John C. Reilly on the left side of the street and Katie Kelly on the right side of the street. I'm like, great, perfect chance to tell him not to give up on acting. So I cross the street and now we're walking towards each other. And as he gets close to me, I start to say something like, hi, I just wanted to. And he just rushes past me and grumbles something under his breath, like angrily grumbles as I'm saying something kind. So I turned around and I was like, excuse me? And then he turns around and goes, I don't want to be bothered. And I go, this is my street. I'm not bothering anyone. And he says, I can walk wherever I want. And I was like, you don't have to be a prick about it. And then he tells me to go fuck myself. And I lost it. I don't know who the fuck you think you are, acting like a fucking asshole to me in front of my own fucking apartment. You got to be fucked in your fucking head if you think you can talk shit to me in front of my fucking apartment. We are toe to toe, face to face, just swearing and pointing in each other's faces, lobbing F bombs back and forth at each other. I was in a blind rage. Swears were just spewing out of me. I was like, fuck you, you dickless sack of shit. Fuck you, fuck your mom, you cock gobbling son of a bitch. Keep in mind, he was giving it right back to me. It was just bam, 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 just screaming at each other. I've never been in a fist fight. I don't know how that works, but suddenly I did. I was like, this is when you hit someone. We've gone as far as words could take us. We have to start swinging. And like something inside me shifted. And I was like, I need to hit this man. And that's when I noticed that he's fucking enormous. John C. Reilly is a really big dude. Then it also kind of dawned on me like, oh, I bet this is why small people don't talk shit to large people. Thank God he didn't hit me because it would have been like that poor girl in the elevator. He would have knocked the fuck out of me. But of course he didn't because I'm a girl. So the fight ended in the most bizarre way, where we went from absolutely screaming at each other to simultaneously realizing we'd reached the end of the road and we both just stopped and turned and walked in opposite directions. I shit you not. And that was the end of it. I have to emphasize this is not an I hate John C. Reilly story. I think we were both having a bad day. I personally had a ton of shit that was going wrong in my life. So I wasn't looking for a fight, but I was ready for a fight. And as soon as he walked away, one of the first things that popped into my head was, did that guy get served with divorce papers this morning? The thing that really set it off was how initially rude he was to me. Women treat me like shit all the time, but men are generally pretty nice and polite. I was kind of looking at it from a gender angle, and I think he was looking at it from a celebrity angle. But we were both looking at it from an Irish angle. Really, at the end of the day, we are just two Irish people that bumped into each other in Boston. It would have been rude if we hadn't fought. It was like an Irish hello. Total transparency. I did feel a little guilty later. This is not an admission of guilt. I'm naming a feeling. I felt a little guilty later when I found out that he was already famous. A case could be made that I was bothering him. But if I had to look you up on the internet, you're not famous enough to be an asshole. When he really got famous was later. Remember Chicago? This happened 2 months before Chicago came out. And I think after that was when he was a household name. So he really should have been on his best behavior for at least 2 more months. And then he was everywhere. I remember like looking up and seeing him on billboards and being like, oh, fuck. Normally, if I have a huge, like, embarrassing incident, I just block it out. That didn't happen. But since it was since it was John C. Reilly, I had like constant reminders that I'm insane and I fight strangers. Oh, you know what was the worst part? This is the worst part. Step Brothers. I couldn't watch. I mean, he was dead to me after that. I was like, I will never watch anything with you in it. Total and complete embargo on all of your film. So our fight was in the fall of 2002. And then in 2008, Step Brothers came out. And everybody, and I mean everybody, was talking about how good it was, but I couldn't go see it. I did break down probably in like 2010. That really put me in a tough spot. I have a complicated relationship with Step Brothers. I hate Riley, but sweet Christ, Step Brothers is a great movie. Well, that's it. That's the only story I have about getting in a fight with a celebrity. Just kidding. Yeah, no, there's another story. I'm at a comedy club in LA, maybe the Laugh Factory. I think that's what it was called. No, I just looked it up. It's the Comedy Store. I remember what the exterior looked like because the guy that I got in the fight with, he got kicked out, but we were still yelling at each other as he was leaving. It was like an open bar thing, so you could be in the bar and yell at someone who was on the street. I used to be best friends with this girl who was like 6'2", really, really, really tall. And I don't know. I think people think that it's a good thing for a girl to be tall, like you're a model, but it's not. It's not. I did everything with this girl for a handful of years, and people were insane. Like people would just come up to her and be like, "Do you play basketball? Oh my god, how tall are you?" Blah, blah, blah. She was always mortified, uncomfortable, didn't know what to say. It was, oh, no matter how many times it happened, I was always shocked. I was like, I can't believe people just come up to you and say stuff like this. She's like, yeah, it happens all the time. The prologue of this story is that I had a friend who was super tall, who got a lot of comments. And this is the important part, never, ever, ever said anything back, ever. That's where I came in. I'm kind of good for stuff like that. We're at the Comedy Store. I left her at the bar to go to the bathroom. And on the way back, I run in to Nick Swartzen, which made my day because I'm in love with Reno 911 and more specifically, his character, Terry. is one of the best characters ever invented. Super stoked to see him. And he's normal. I'm like, oh, Nick Swartzen, what's up? And he's like, hey, what's up? And we talk for like, I don't know, like 5 minutes, like two normal people would. And then I look over his shoulder and I can see my friend above, towering above the crowd. And she looks sad. And there's like a group around her and they're smiling, kind of sneering. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? All right, hold up, Terry. I'll be right back. So I go over, and this group of guys is making fun of my friend for being tall. And the guy leading it was a celebrity. The whole situation had a lot of eyes on it because he was famous. So this guy's like publicly humiliating my friend. No, not on my watch. Keep in mind, or rather, let me tell you, this guy was a comedian who had a sitcom that had just been canceled. And in retrospect, I bet that's why he was being mean to my friend. Probably can't feel good to have your sitcom canceled. Regardless of his psychological motivations, he was being a huge dick. So I walked over and I said, hey, friends, pretty tense over here. We got a problem? What's up? What's going on? And he starts in, I'm like, I've just never seen anyone this tall before. I mean, wow, look, she is really tall, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and also he was a comedian, so like I was expecting more. Then I said, "You're in a pretty good mood for someone whose show just got canceled. Shouldn't you be at home looking for a job?" And he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm nobody, just like you." And then I think he said something like, "Well, I had to just come over and talk to your friend because I've never seen anyone this tall before." So I threatened to kill him. He's yelling. I'm yelling. Bouncers are coming over. We're being separated. He gets kicked out, still yelling at each other, pointing, screaming, whole 9 yards. And all I could think was, why does this keep happening to me? How do I keep getting in loud, aggressive fights with celebrities? God damn it.
The Katie Kelly Show.
The Michelle Obama documentary Becoming, which is actually it's less of a documentary and more just about her book or like a combo. I don't know. Regardless, there's a movie, it's on Netflix. It came up as one of my suggested next watches, which is weird because it came out 6 years ago, but I decided to watch it because I'm a fan, I'm a fan, I'm a fan. I started watching this. Like I said, it's about the book she wrote. She's talking about the book tour. Specifically, she starts talking about the signings that she does after. I've got a lot to say about this. First of all, the visual, she's shaking everyone's hands, touching them, touching people, shaking their hands, shaking hands with the public. She's looking them in the eye, smiling, greeting them. Oh, are you pregnant? What do you do? Oh, do you go to college? I'm so proud of you. Imagine that. Imagine walking up to Michelle Obama with like a hoodie that says your college and she says she's proud of you. Lots of great stuff going on. And then there's a voiceover, and she says, it's like an emotional, sociological dance with people. It's important that I take every person as they come up. When someone walks up to me, I don't look around, I don't look behind them. I look them in the eye and I take in their story. Sharing someone's story gives me perspective that I don't get. This is how I relate to people, and it helps me stay collected. A plus, Michelle Obama. A plus. And I know what I'm talking about because not everyone does that. I've been to one book signing in my life, and it was the exact opposite of what I saw in the Michelle Obama movie. First of all, the fact that I even went to a book signing speaks volumes. No pun intended. I hate waiting in lines. I know everyone does, but like I hate it so much that I will not do something that necessitates standing in a line. I made this one time exception because the person was Jane Fonda. I really loved at the time, I really loved Jane Fonda. She wrote a book. She's written like 70. She came to a place by me, was giving a talk, and then doing a signing afterwards. I broke protocol. I got in line to meet Jane. I wanted to see Jane. Pedal to the metal. Jane Fonda. It's happening. Mind you, in the Michelle movie, she was having full blown conversations with people. One woman was like, I love when you talked about postpartum depression. I went through that too, and blah, blah, blah. And Michelle was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And the woman was like, blah, 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 blah. And Michelle was like, blah. Us. I don't think what I did was totally out of control. I wasn't insane to engage Jane further than like, please sign. Okay. I get up to Jane. It's my big moment. I give her the book. And now I say to her, I don't know what I say to her. I've blocked this whole thing out of my memory. This thing was so goddamn traumatic that I have no idea what I said to her. But it was akin to the postpartum woman. I said something like, I liked this part of your speech. It resonated with me. When you sign my book, say something about whatever. Jane Fonda looked at me like I was fucking crazy. Didn't say a word, turned her head and looked back at her security guard. He didn't say a word to him either. They'd already worked out a nonverbal system. When she looked at him, he gave me the head nod. You can't see my head, but you're out of here. What? I didn't ask for like a clipping of her hair. I couldn't move. I was like Ralphie on Santa's lap. And then the guy like takes a step forward and he's like, let's go. And I was like, you've got to be shitting me. She didn't even sign the book. I was just like incredulous. I was like, Jane, I love it. Yeah, I was like, Jane, they would have shot me in the head if I said, Jane, I love you. I just picked up my book and like, doubt. This woman was a radical anti war activist that did jail time over how strongly she opposed the war in Vietnam. So if you can do all that, you should probably be able to write a message in my book. Maybe it's possible that someone can be brave enough to visit POW camps, but doesn't have what it takes to come up with a short personal message on the spot. Although it was a fucking book signing, not sure why she was so taken off guard. My mom's outside waiting in the car. I get in the car and she's like, how did it go? And I was like, as bad as humanly possible, as bad as any interaction could possibly go. She's like, did you get the signature? I got the boot. I got asked to leave. She was like, what happened? I was like, all right, take me home. Take me home. Help me find a therapist. And in a couple of months, I'll try to tell you what happened. But right now, I have no idea what just happened, except that I don't think that I like Jane Fonda anymore. I did throw the book away when I got home. I was like, this book. I'm cursed. There's a celebrity curse on me. Every time I meet a celebrity, something terrible happens. I actually have one that's more humiliating than the Jane Fonda shit show, if you can believe it. My mom and I had just flown into JFK, and I feel like I talk a lot of shit about my mom, but so many of my stories are about me doing things with her. Why is that? Something to think about. Not right now, though. A little backstory because I think it matters. When this happened, I did look very ugly. I don't do well on planes. I'm afraid of heights and I get motion sickness. And it was a super turbulent flight and I was already like scared out of my mind. I'm sure I looked insane. And then the landing was chaotic. Okay, the landing was fucking insane. That wasn't just me. When the plane landed, the pilot got on the speaker and said, sorry, everybody, that was not my best landing. So even he knew it. We get to the baggage carousel, and of course, they're like, whoops, it's going to be 30 minutes. I feel like shit. I'm trying not to throw up. I'm just like on the ground with my head between my knees. And then I look up and I see someone I recognize who had apparently been on my flight and is now waiting with me for baggage to come. And this is an important person. If you had asked me that morning, Katie, who is the sexiest man alive? I would have said Gael García Bernal. What are the chances that you even run into a celebrity and that you run into your favorite celebrity? That's nuts. I'm sitting there and he's like 4 feet away from me. And this man is oozing, ripping. The sex appeal is just like falling off of him, cooling around his feet. What am I going to do? Not talk to him? No, I had to do something, right? I didn't chase him down. I wasn't stalking him. We were both waiting in the same area and I approached him. Okay. Not a big deal. All right. Just wanted to say hi, have a chat. If we end up sleeping together, so be it. Who's to say where it goes? But I was just starting with hello. So I walk up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Katie. I love your movies." And do you know what this motherfucker said to me? No hablo inglés. He didn't even look down at me. At least Jane looked me in the eye before having me kicked out. He was like looking straight ahead and was like, "I don't speak English. Get gone, bitch." He speaks English. I just said, "I love your movies. I love your Spanish movies. I love your English movies. You're bilingual, you motherfucker." And also, guess what? I speak Spanish. So I was about to say, like, you want to talk Spanish? I'll fucking talk to you all day in Spanish. But I got the idea that he didn't want to talk to me. So I just, fucking crawled back into the hole where I came from. And this is why I brought up the whole motion sickness thing, because I think that, maybe if I'd been feeling better, makeup, hair done, I feel like I was always going to get shot down, but maybe with like a dart gun. He mowed me down with the fucking machine gun. Now let me disperse some of this shame and guilt because it's too much for one person. So I'm going to put some of it on my mom. When you're with another person, it's like a cumulative score. If he looked over and I was with a bunch of like hot young girls, that might have helped. But my mom is such a mom, right? She was wearing this like mint green sweater that had like a daisy on it and said like, Cape Cod, like in cursive. You know, that's not sexy. There's nothing hot about that sweater. So I think he saw me with her and she brought our score down. If I had been with a hot friend, I might have gotten a little further, maybe to where he said hello instead of lying about what language he spoke. But no, he saw the daisy sweater and he was like, I'm not doing this. That incident was terrible, as they say in Espanol. That was the worst. That was worse than Fonda. All right, that's a wrap. That's my celebrity roundup for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and I'll have a new episode next week. I will see you then.
The Katie Kelly Show.